Hey everyone, it's Tom at Cerulean Bay. And today we've got a really cool topic for you guys. We are getting into the kitchen. And no, we're not cooking just yet. We are going to have some cool recipe videos and things like that coming up soon. But before we do that, we want to make sure that that kitchen is a tropical escape of its own. So we have got some really cool ideas and styling tips for you about how you can bring the look of the islands into that important space in your home. It's got to be some wonderful way that the tropics speaks to you, where you can experience that beauty, even the tranquility of the tropics. A kitchen can be a very quiet place to be, even if you're in there chopping and prepping and cooking. Having something very calming to look at is a very, very healthy thing to have. It's a very helpful thing to have. So, using the elements that we're going to talk about can really help to transform an ordinary kitchen into a tropical happy place. Too many kitchens, honestly, just have that standard home builder look to them. And I know in a lot of newer housing that's been built recently, there's some beautiful kitchens that they're putting in, but they just kind of all have that same look. It's that builder beige and just kind of the same cabinets. And I don't know, they're just kind of boring. There's not a whole lot of interesting stuff to look at in there. And then when people remodel, they want to get better quality cabinetry or maybe some new countertops, or they're going to put in those really nice stainless steel appliances. The look is still kind of the same after. There's just not a real wow factor to it. I mean, not that everything has to be in bright blues and greens or anything like that, but your kitchen, it should really speak to you. It is a very important place in the house, and it should really have a very comfortable, nice look to it without it being generic or boring. It really is okay to branch out. So having said that, while a lot of coastal styles will have a lighter and a more weathered look to them that typically use a lot of faded or more of those pastel colors, tropical styles tend to use bolder colors. You're going to come into your deep jungle greens and your ocean blues. You can have touches of really vibrant oranges and rich shades of reds and pinks kind of scattered throughout. And it really depends on how you're spreading these out and what other pieces you're using in there. You've got your artwork, you've got your countertop accessories and things like that. So when considering what's needed for a truly tropical space, it's actually easier to create the look if you just take the inspirations directly from nature when possible. Instead of trying to create something brand new in your head, just get online and look, or maybe open a really nice book that has imagery of the tropics in it, or it's just something where you can get some kind of inspiration, and then focus on the natural materials. This is where you can look at different woods, things that are made of stone, things that are made of bamboo, and keep your bright accents to things like fruit bowls or artwork or serving boards. Colors can also come in the form of just really nice tropical flower arrangements. You have a really nice vase and you've got a cool arrangement going on in there. There's your pop of color. One thing that we really try to get people to focus on is the backsplash, or the area behind your stove, and in many cases also behind your sink, depending on how your kitchen is put together. But you can have very neutral walls going on in your home and coming into the kitchen space, especially if you have like an open concept. But that backsplash can really be the cool accent piece, and there's so much you can do with it. In addition to just paint, you can get into ceramic tiles, glass mosaics, hand-painted tiles, stone tiles. There's really a lot that you can do with the backsplash, and we'll get into a couple ideas about that. Then, if you're also one who does outdoor cooking, you love to grill outdoors, maybe you are thinking about putting in a new outdoor kitchen, or if you've already got one, maybe it needs a bit of updating. Just follow the same principles as what you would do inside to create and accomplish that island style look. It's all about the colors, and it's going to be about some of the materials and things like that. So let's get into the elements of tropical kitchen decor, which include everything from your countertops to your islands, if you have one, your cabinetry. So we have 7 basic elements of kitchen design, which we'll get into. And then after looking at those, we'll give you some really cool ideas. We have 8 tropical kitchen ideas that we've come up with, which will also help to connect with your personality because kitchens should really reflect your personality. This is where you are prepping food, and this is where guests tend to hang out when you're entertaining. If you have family coming over, usually people are congregating in the kitchen. This is where people can just be themselves. If you like to cook, your personality comes out through your cooking. So the way your kitchen is decorated, the way it's put together, should reflect your personality as well. So let's get moving here with the 7 basics of tropical kitchen design. These are things that you should consider so that that island-inspired atmosphere is there, the one that lifts the mood, the one that soothes the soul. And this is where you need to create a serene balance of materials, your color palette, lighting, accents and accessories, plants, prints and patterns, and ideally a cool backsplash. So there are many different tropical styles, which range from chic and lush to contemporary and minimalist. These 7 basic elements apply to all of them. And a simple internet search or social media search is going to give you an endless array of ideas to look at. A lot of people do head over to Pinterest for a lot of things, and we do like Pinterest for many, many things. But I'm going to be honest, when it comes to kitchen design, we think Pinterest kind of goes overboard. It tends to pull in too many of the same ideas into one general blend or mix of images. And we think this is something when it comes to kitchens that you should really separate out. What is it exactly you are trying to do? How much do you have in your kitchen right now regarding things that are scattered across the countertop? Or maybe you don't have anything at all. Maybe you have a lot of bar seating or breakfast counter seating. Maybe you don't have any of that at all. There's certain looks that are going to go with certain things. And I think in the kitchen, it's just where you have to be careful because you just need to get it just right. Most people only have one kitchen. So it's the one place in your house where when you have people over, everybody's going to see it. And most everything you do to it is going to have a very large level of permanence. And what we mean by that is you can't just simply change things out like you can in most other rooms, like with furniture or with artwork. You just rearrange stuff or you just remove it and swap it out and buy some new stuff. When you're looking at the kitchen, you're looking at countertops, cabinetry, plumbing fixtures, major appliances. All of those are pretty permanent things once they're in there. And then it's the same thing when you get into paint, wallpaper, backsplashes, lighting. Those are all pretty permanent too. Yeah, all of that can be changed, but it's very time consuming. It's very expensive. It's a huge job. It's pretty much only anything you have on the countertops or any artwork you have on the walls that are easy to change out, but that's pretty much it. So really going back to the Pinterest thing, just check around to see what really, really speaks to you. And it needs to say, wow, this is it. Yeah, that's the look that I want. You want that wow feeling. I want this before committing to a particular look. So, having said that, when you are looking for ideas for your kitchen or for any room that matter, just remember too that as you come across some really cool stuff, the one thing you don't want to do is just copy and paste. You don't want to try and create something that looks like it came from a magazine. There are some really cool things out there, and that's great to try to emulate that. But at the end of the day, it still needs to reflect your character, your personality, your preferences. So unless you come across something in a magazine that looks like something you would have designed yourself, just make sure to put your own spin on it, your own twist on that. And that'll be easy when you have your own artwork or your own personal little knickknacks and decorative items and things like that. But when it comes to certain color choices and how those are combined with countertops and wallpaper and things like this, you just don't want to go word for word right out of a magazine. Just really make sure you infuse your personality, your character into it, make it yours. So, getting into those 7 elements, let's start off with materials. This is where you choose natural materials that will add texture, they'll add warmth and depth to your space. When you use these correctly, you are going to create a wonderful unified look. For example, with your countertops, you can go with stone and you can even go with concrete. It's not cheap, but concrete countertops are actually pretty cool. And on these, you can do something like place a very large stationary wooden cutting board. There are those very large wooden cutting boards, which are kind of semi-permanent, but then you pair that with some similar looking wooden shelves, or maybe you've got like a breakfast hutch or something like a movable piece of furniture that has wooden shelves that kind of match what you have going on the countertop. That is a great way to kind of unify materials there. Cabinetry is obviously another big thing. Whether it's finished in natural wood tones or it's painted, that final color should blend in color wise with your larger surfaces. Everything should tie together. When you've got those things going on, and then you're looking at adding other things like maybe any bar stools or chairs, it would be really cool if those things are made from rattan or they're incorporating any kind of bamboo or some kind of natural tropical material to it. Those two then would tie in with the cabinetry, tie in with the countertops. So you really want all of your textures and your colors, all of those materials to just blend together into one really cool look. And even if you get into any upholstery, some people are hesitant to have upholstery in a kitchen just because of spills and this kind of thing. But if you get the right kind of fabrics that are really easy to clean and which can stand up to heavy use, there's some really cool ones out there. And you can get those in bold colors or cool tropical prints or something like that. Sturdy leather is another great option. We've seen some really cool leather bar stools or just leather breakfast chairs, which fit into that whole natural material look. So, yeah, when it comes to natural materials, just make sure that everything you're pulling together is varied, but it all ties together. And then if you're going to bring in any fabric patterns or bold colors, go as big or as small as you want. It is your space. So, speaking of colors, the next material we get into is the color palette. These are really important because obviously, when you're decorating in tropical style, you want the colors and shades of those colors to mimic what you would see in the tropics. So, this is where you can have shades ranging from creamy whites and beiges to accents that are full of deep greens and cool blues, bold oranges and sunny yellows. Lighter off-white walls are actually really, really good because they reflect the light. They make spaces appear larger and more airy, and then they allow you to use a color palette of your choice in everything else. All of your accents and accessories and whatever upholstery you might have in there, countertop colors. So if you can imagine being at a really cool beach house, you're on your paradise beach somewhere, what would you see if you look up online just images of beach houses? They're going to be brightly colored, but you're going to have a lot of whites and neutral colors and wood tones in there as well. So the look that we really recommend with this is one of a really cool beach house where you've got great pops of color throughout, but then you've got the neutral walls and maybe the neutral ceiling, or if you're fortunate to have wood beam ceilings in your house, a lot of natural wood is the ceiling. That's perfect for tropical escapes. That just works so well. So speaking of color palettes, when you get into accents and accessories, this is really cool because a lot of people overlook this, and it's a bit odd because there's a lot of products out there that are done in these colors, but to really add vibrancy, if you've got the white walls going on and you've got the wood flooring or maybe the wood ceilings and you don't have a lot of color already going on, this is where your backsplash can really do the talking and a really cool splash of color. But then when you're looking at small appliances, toasters, coffee machines, juicers, stand mixers, bread machines. All of these are available in really heavy saturated colors, which are perfect for tropical countertops. So these are things that you can proudly display. They're going to add a lot of vibrancy. We've seen them available in pinks and yellows and oranges and dark blues. And I mean, you can really create your own visual interest, your own eclectic feel. And to really make those things pop, this is where we really recommend keeping your counter spaces free of other stuff. And we will touch on that here shortly. But this is where you want to avoid clutter. If you're going to have really cool small appliances like this, and then maybe some other colored artwork or something all kind of interspersed, why would you want to have a lot of other stuff? You know, your general everyday papers or just things that people tend to leave laying around on countertops. Why would you want that detracting from all of that? Make sure all of that stuff has its own home. Keep your countertops clean so that you can really make these colors pop. Now, if you're sitting there going, okay, Tom really loves his colors and he's going to make those countertops really pop with all kinds of things, but I'm not really the bolder color person, not a problem at all. What you do is just go with a more subdued palette. All of these appliances are available in softer colors as well, or you don't own any of these in any bright colors and you're not going to go out and start replacing things just because it's the wrong color, because good appliances are expensive. Not a problem at all. You put all of your appliances away, they can be completely out of view. This is where you just simply bring in cool decor pieces, cool artwork, things that are in the colors that you really, really like, that are going to go with the colors that you have on your walls, and working with any wood that you might have or any stone that you might have if you have stone flooring or something like that. But yeah, vibrancy, that's totally up to you. Some people love a lot of bold colors. Other people like things really toned down and softer. Both work perfectly in tropical escapes. So, yeah, don't be afraid of color and don't feel that you need to use it if it's something that just doesn't work for you. So, moving on from color palettes, let's get into lighting because you know us here at Cerulean Bay, we love lighting. It is just an art form in and of itself, all the things you can do with it. So, in the kitchen, it is primarily a task area in your house. Kitchens are not known for their mood lighting or things like this typically, but this is where your lighting does not have to be boring. Yes, it needs to be functional. It needs to provide enough visibility for you to safely work. And that means on the countertops, at the sink, on a kitchen island, obviously at the stove, everything needs to be bright enough for you to see what it is you're doing, but it can be super interesting as well. So consider this. There are tropical themed pendants that can go over countertops, kitchen islands, breakfast tables. Many of these are like pineapple shaped. They come in different woven pendant styles, all kinds of natural materials out there. You can mix those in with track lighting. Track lighting's come a long way. There's recessed lighting, which is very common, but I think it's actually very, very useful because you don't have visible fixtures in the way during the day. So when you have recessed lighting and then it's off during the day, it actually opens up a space ceiling wise because it's just less that's visible on the ceiling. But these are some really good things to consider when you're getting into lighting is just what does the fixture in and of itself look like? And then you can also get into the under the cabinet mounted lighting, or depending on the cabinetry you have, a recent trend has been one where cabinetry is literally built from counter space up to the ceiling. Whereas for many, many years, there was a rather large gap between the top of the cabinetry and the ceiling space at all. And people just either left it blank as a big dust collection area, or the very 80s look where they're putting a lot of plastic plants and things like that up there, big dust collectors and everything. Our preference was just not to have anything up there because it was less to clean then. But now, if you do have that space, that gap between the top of your kitchen cabinets and the ceiling, get some really cool lighting up there. Yeah, you'll periodically have to get up there and dust the fixtures. You know, you don't want a bunch of dust collecting on your light bulbs because as they heat up, you can just smell that burnt dust smell, which is not cool. And I don't know if a fire could actually start from that, but why take a chance? So, you need to get up there and periodically clean. But you can get fixtures that are mounted in the cabinetry, which point up or at an angle if you have the wiring available for that, or just something. If you get online and look, light that space up because the effect is really, really cool when you have just a bit of light emanating from the top of your kitchen cabinets. Moving on to our next element is accents and accessories. And while accents are usually decor items which function purely as visual interest, accessories act both as visually interesting items and things that you can actually use. So, as we've discussed, those small countertop appliances are really cool accessories to have. And if you have them in colors that will work and they are show worthy, use those as the decor pieces that you need. For accent pieces that would really work in your kitchen, you only really need a few because obviously you don't want a lot of things taking up your counter space. But this is where cool art forms, small sculptures, really cool glass bowls, or maybe you've got some really neat glassware that you can showcase, just anything that would really look cool and would help bring out that tropical feel in your kitchen. You've got the perfect accents there. So consider things that just all visually blend together. You can even include things like oven mitts. If you've got some really cool tropical looking colorful oven mitts and they're hanging on the oven door handle, or maybe they're like placed in a visible spot, they are a real great way to add a little lively twist on your tropical design there. So here's where you can really get creative with it. Take some time, look around. If you've got a particular little corner that needs to be filled and you're not quite sure what to do with it, get online and check around for just something unusual, something unique. And I'm sure you'll be able to find that perfect little piece in there that would complete your countertop look. And as we mentioned before, you really do want your countertops and your stovetops to just be uncluttered, because most of what people usually have laying around just doesn't add to the look. There is no visual interest to that. It's just stuff. So just be careful with it. Make sure it has its own home in a drawer or it's just properly put away. Because honestly, when you imagine your ideal tropical escape, is clutter really a part of the picture? You really don't see just stuff lying around on your countertops and on your stove and all of that. So imagine that ideal tropical escape and recreate that for the kitchen. Moving on, we get into plants. We love tropical plants, both real ones and the fake ones, because in our honest opinion, they just bring the tropics home. And for some people, you can just never have too many plants, especially if you have a lot of space. I mean, obviously, space will dictate what is practical. And if you have a large number of indoor plants already, those should be spread out and placed strategically to maximize the tropical effect. But yeah, tropical plants in the kitchen, especially if you've got a lot of natural light, what an awesome addition to your space. And there's so many exotic varieties that do really well indoors that you can really bring the outdoors in regardless of the season or the weather. If you happen to have a small space or maybe like a U-shaped kitchen or a galley kitchen, which is just kind of long and narrow, just try placing a few smaller pots on your windowsill if you have one. If you don't have a window immediately in your kitchen, there are plants that do well in limited lighting, such as peace lilies or parlor palms. They don't require tons of natural light. But even if you just have a single plant that creates a statement or a focal point, you've just done the job right there. You've got a nice tropical little statement in your space. And if you're lucky enough where your kitchen opens up maybe to a balcony or to a deck or a patio even, and you happen to live in a warmer hardiness zone, so you tend to be more south, obviously where the weather is warmer, you can place one or more large potted plants outside so that you can see them from the windows. And then it just creates that nice visual flow. You're bringing the scenery in. There's just that transition from the indoors to the outdoors. So that's part of the goal here too. Always try to bring the outdoors in when possible, because it just creates one large visual space. When it's done really well, you can barely see the transition from the indoors to the outdoors. So yeah, just think of it that way, that you're just bringing the outdoors in. From there, we move into prints and patterns. And prints, patterns, these are obviously all tropical themed. This is where your personality can really shine through. You're looking for all of the flora and fauna out there, which is seen in natural landscapes of the tropics. This is where you're getting into the flamingos and the toucans and the other tropical birds. You're getting into the leafy jungle greens and oversized orchid flowers. And oh, what else is there? Tropical fruit. You've got the pineapples and things like this that are all available in artwork and upholstery. You can bring in really cool patterns by adding floor rugs, seat cushions, tea towels, curtains in your windows, artwork. It's all of these details that help to just really infuse the tropics into your space with a really refreshing and original twist, because it's you picking it out. You're creating your own combination of these things. So you're really creating a look that nobody else has. So get out there and look for those prints and patterns, because there are some really, really cool ones out there. And finally, in the 7 elements that we mentioned, we have the backsplash. And we just mentioned that again because the kitchen is really a unique space. This is where you have a chance to express your artistic side or your personality in a way that you really can't anywhere else in your house. Because when it comes to backsplashes, they can be as simple or as intricate as you want. And if you have the budget to create a really awesome one, go for it. Because many times these are the visual focal point or accent space in your kitchen, sometimes even in your living room if you have a big open concept room. And this is where you can use a single color. You can create a combination of colors. You can get into exotic and tropical patterns because most backsplashes are really tiled areas because they have to be made from something that is easy to clean. This is behind the stove. These are behind the sink surfaces where there's a high moisture environment, getting splashed from the sink and things like that. So, yeah, most backsplashes are made from solid surfaces such as marble or tile, which is then properly grouted in so no moisture gets through. But, as I said, they have to tolerate the different levels of moisture and heat, but the options are endless. You have high quality glass, you have stone, porcelain tile, stone tile. There's just so many different kinds. Some of them will have a bright or bold pattern that you can put together almost like a little puzzle, depending on the size of the space that you have. And then you buy a particular set that has this pattern emblazoned across all the tiles. So when you put it together, it creates one unique picture or look. And these things really do complement the other natural materials that you've chosen. They'll go with wood shelving, wood countertops. They work excellent with granite countertops, concrete even. So, yeah, backsplashes, very, very cool. Don't discount those spaces. They are worth spending a little bit of extra money when you can create something cool. So now that we have the 7 elements of tropical design in the bag, let's get into some tropical themed kitchen ideas. As I mentioned, we have about 8 of those for you here that we pulled together. And these will work depending on the different design styles out there. So consider the style, the actual structure of the kitchen that you have to work with, the architectural style of your home. If you are lucky enough to have any really cool architectural features in your kitchen, that has a lot to do with what you can do in turning your kitchen into an awesome tropical space. You really can only work with the space that you have. So, having said that, the first idea we have is literally to go outdoors and consider an outdoor tropical kitchen or at least a small space where you can do some outdoor grilling. And it doesn't have to be just some little corner out on a patio where you happen to have an outdoor grill and everything else around it is just very visually uninteresting. This is where, again, you have to work with what you've got, but in the layout that you have, and if you happen to live in a location which allows you to cook outside most of the year, if not the whole year, consider fixing up that little space or that big space if you don't already have a cool outdoor kitchen. And we know that this is not an inexpensive thing to do, but if you can and you really do enjoy grilling and cooking outdoors, right there, that shows you that it is worth it if you can do it. It means something to you. It's something you truly enjoy. So, yeah, it's worth investing in some kind of cool little outdoor space where you can do some cooking and grilling. In true outdoor kitchens, these do continue to be very popular. They are still adding great resale value to your home in the real estate world. So consider outdoor kitchens or just at least an outdoor little cooking space if you can. Because when you are outside, it is easy to create an island retreat vibe because you've already got the elements of the tropics there on a warm and sunny day. And I mean, obviously, your local climate will dictate a lot about what's possible and for how many months that you have true shorts and flip flops weather. But if you are lucky to be living in an area where you've got great weather most of the year and you're surrounded by nature, as opposed to maybe being in a more urban setting, inner city, this is where having local plant life become part of your tropical scene is not hard to do. Take your existing landscaping. We've got the other blog posts about how to do outdoor landscaping and creating outdoor tropical escapes. You can factor some of those elements in. But yeah, the landscaping is yours to work with. And if you've got space that can accommodate an outdoor kitchen, all the better. For colder climates, as we've mentioned before, keep things portable. Use pots. And if you have big pots, get yourself a good dolly or a hand truck so that you can move them indoors inside the garage when it gets cold. But yes, you can create a very cool outdoor kitchen area, even in those colder climates. And really, since outdoor kitchens, they offer a lot of the same benefits as an indoor kitchen, you can really create beautiful spaces. These are spaces where you would spend quality time with family and friends. And everybody loves a tropical space. If it's clean and it's well planned and thoughtfully put together, I mean, honestly, who doesn't love a good outdoor tropical space? Even if it's just a small patio or, just a small corner of your yard when you don't have a lot of square footage to work with, you can really still create something that's very, very cool. So we did include that as one of our 8 ideas for kitchens because a lot of people love to cook outdoors. We have friends that cook outdoors every chance they get. So as I said, they don't have to be huge. If you have any outdoor countertop space, just place a small countertop grill, maybe check into those, maybe an outdoor pizza oven or something. Really, with a bit of imagination, they can be nearly as complete as a full size kitchen. So, yeah, get online, check out some ideas for outdoor kitchens. Getting back indoors, the second idea we have is to really bring the beach inside. So, consider a beachfront kitchen. If you can imagine being maybe at a coastal Airbnb or just some cool rental place, hotel room that has its own kitchen, and you've got a nice ocean view out there, they're usually going to be very bright. It's going to be very airy. So if you are fortunate enough to have a kitchen that maybe has a lot of natural light, consider wood floors, white windows, white walls, white cabinets. White cabinetry reflects a lot of light and it provides an ideal neutral foundation for tropical looks. So, whether you have a lot of natural light or not, white is very, very good for kitchens because it just reflects a lot of that light around. If your kitchen does happen to be on the darker side where you just don't have a lot of natural light, then yeah, dark colors should definitely be avoided because there are a lot of wood cabinets out there which are very, very dark. Some people paint their cabinets a very dark brown or just other dark colors. And those should really be avoided because when you don't have a lot of natural light, they're just going to shrink your space. And you don't need a kitchen to look any smaller than it might already be. So consider blues and greens with warm wood accents. You mix blues and greens and wood together, and you just have a luxurious tropical look. It's just that tropical ambiance that comes through with those 3 things. But yeah, blues, greens, and woods, they just work so well together. And of course, strategically placed greenery, those potted plants, bring them in, create that really nice tropical feel. Because in a beachfront kitchen, typically you're going to have some kind of plants indoors and maybe outdoors on a balcony or a patio. So bring in that greenery and it will only add to that beachfront kitchen feel. If you happen to have a single story home, consider the use of skylights. Whether you already have a lot of natural light or not, skylights are awesome for brightening up kitchens. That allows you to have more plant life. Skylights work very, very well in other rooms in your home. Just a quick side note, if you have interior bathrooms with no windows, those definitely need skylights if you can do them. I've seen the change that it makes, and it's really cool. And when you live in a sunnier climate, sometimes you don't even need to turn the light on then. You've got enough light coming in through that lighting coming through the ceiling. So, yeah, check out skylights. Very, very good for brightening up dark kitchens. Let's get on to another idea here where we have Caribbean style kitchens. And we call it Caribbean style because they're not afraid to use bold colors. It does kind of encompass the tropical look as a whole. When you get into places like the South Pacific, there does tend to be more of a heavy use of woods and more natural materials and not always so many painted surfaces. But in the Caribbean, they use a lot of paint and they use a lot of color and it looks wonderful. These kitchens feature bright and bold colors, usually the same colors that are found in local landscapes. This is where the colors are inspired by turquoise waters, the blue skies, rainforest greens, canary yellows, flamingo pinks. You can imagine fruit colors such as oranges and mango and apricot. They pull this all together in the house, and it is just such a lively environment, and their kitchens just really come to life and they're just full of energy and it's wonderful. There's very little use of whites. They don't use a lot of neutral colors. If they do, they're usually in like warmer hues like ivories or creams. So they're not going to be white, anything like that. And then as far as your elements are concerned, Caribbean kitchens do feature a lot of tile flooring, mahogany or other tropical wood on countertops, in chairs. If they're going to use wallpaper, it's usually in a really bold print, maybe big palm leaf prints or something. If your wall space allows for that, consider it again, especially if you live in a place where you've got a lot of great landscaping that's visible from your kitchen. If you've got some big windows, either directly in the kitchen or coming in from a breakfast area, and you can find a wallpaper in a similar leaf pattern and color, and you can just bring the outdoors right in. It's a very, very cool effect. So, yeah, Caribbean style kitchens, lots of palm leaf prints and colors and woven accents and things like that. You can create a place that is fit for the islands there. A fourth really cool idea, which is kind of on the opposite end of the spectrum, is a modern tropical kitchen. Modern decor is usually really only about functionality, efficiency, but there is an elegance to it. I don't want to say it's plain and it's very bare, it's very minimal, but that elegance is there. It focuses really on things like fresh white cabinets against white walls. Maybe there's some really cool wood flooring. There's just not a lot of detail because it's not needed. The styling is going to be in the woodworking that is in the cabinetry combined with a wood flooring or a really interesting tiled floor where there's just a lot of maybe surface texture to it or something, but there's not tons of color. A lot of times you'll see marble countertops used. Solid white backsplashes are common. It's very open. It's very airy. It's very practical. The tropical feeling is really brought in through the use of textured items such as woven window shades, woven pendant lighting, a boldly colored fruit bowl, maybe tropical arrangement in a really cool vase on the kitchen counter. Very minimal. It's one pop of color and it fills the need. That woven pendant lighting is all the texture you need. So I think you get the point there with modern tropical kitchens. It's tropical, but very minimal, very fresh, very open. And that segues perfectly into the fifth idea we have, which is island inspired minimalism. It's a bit different because this minimalist design is not necessarily modern. It has more of a rustic look to it. But these kitchens also don't have a lot of accessories. You're going to see very little, if anything, out on the countertops. This is where vibrant colors are used, whereas in the modern tropical example we just gave, you're not going to see much, if any of that at all. But island inspired minimalism does have more texture and color. Countertops, instead of being a sleek white marble, they're going to be slate. They'll be stone. They might even be wood, like that butcher block wood, or just a really cool piece of natural live edge wood that has been turned into a countertop. If there's going to be any bold colors, it'll probably be in the artwork, maybe an accent wall that's painted in one or two bold colors, but that's really it. It's a very organic look. It's very natural. It's warmer than the modern tropical look. It's with more natural materials being used. This is where large plants are brought in if you have the floor space. As opposed to a tropical floral arrangement that's on a countertop, now you've got a really big plant on the floor in a corner, maybe another cool plant up against a countertop, but you're bringing the nature in. You just don't have a lot of things. There's no clutter. There's very few, if any, appliances that are visible. So it's just another take on the whole minimalist look. Very, very cool when it's done right. From there, our sixth idea is focusing on small tropical kitchens. And so we wanted to bring in an idea for small spaces because that is honestly what a lot of people have. If you live in the city and you're in an apartment or you're in an older home, a lot of times these kitchens are just there for cooking, doing the dishes, and putting things in the fridge and not a whole lot else because there's just no room. Small kitchens are no different than any other room in your house when it comes to color or things like tile or wallpaper, because again, Brighter colors are going to make it look bigger. Darker colors are going to shrink it. Always keep that in mind. So, what we recommend for smaller tropical kitchens are with the white colors, use whites on the wall, like a seashell white or something reminiscent of a sand color, but very, very light. Use that as your base color. Keep your flooring very light. And then you bring in your bolder colors, which are colors that come from leaves and flowers. Use those in your accents. That's where, if you are lucky enough to have space for a bar stool or two, you can have those really be the pop of color. You've got some cool upholstery there, or maybe curtains on a window or just a bit of artwork on the walls, but that's where your bright pops of color are going to come in. We actually have a really cool blog post about this, and I'll put the link to that in the show notes, because also a very smart thing to do in small tropical kitchens when you want to use tile is to use subway tiling. And these are basically just rectangular tiles. They are longer in width and shorter in height when they are placed horizontally. And this is a very smart thing to do in small spaces, because when you do it correctly on the walls and in backsplashes, it will literally help to stretch the space visually. And that's a very important thing when you have small spaces. You want things to just be horizontal. Popular colors in these tiles are usually in lighter blues and greens. They do come in whites. They actually come in a wide range of other colors too. But I would be careful in smaller spaces when you start to get into the oranges and the reds, because those tend to be brighter yet darker. Darker colors, again, will shrink. So we recommend staying with the lighter, cool colors, the blues and the greens and the whites. Another good tip for small spaces, if your budget allows, is when it comes to your sink. A single farmhouse sink will make your sink space look larger than having a double sink, even if they're both actually the same size. So if you don't mind having a single sink and you want to make your space look larger, consider a farmhouse sink. Just another tip. When it comes to curtains and window blinds or anything else that can have a pattern, avoid verticals. Unless you happen to have a lower ceiling, which hopefully you don't if your kitchen's already small, then yeah, that wouldn't be very cool. But when you do have a situation where your ceiling is a little bit lower typically than other houses or apartments, that's where you need all the verticals you can get to help. Verticals will help stretch things vertically, but stick to the horizontals. And you can also try to find art forms or any countertop accents or artwork that are also in a horizontal pattern, keeping them kind of all in the same shape visually in a horizontal fashion is really going to help emphasize that stretch where you just want it to be, you want it to look bigger than it really is. So if you do these things the right way, your small kitchen can be a wonderful place to hang out in. So yeah, don't discount small tropical kitchens. Another example that we would give to you is the contemporary colorful oasis. It's kind of a fun name that we came up with. But for a contemporary look, usually contemporary and tropical in the same sentence isn't always the easiest thing to imagine, because contemporary in its truest sense is very clean, it's very sleek, very linear. Whereas you get into the tropics, it's all kinds of shapes and forms and plants and seashells and palm trees and colors. And there is no strict linear sense to it. But what we came across here in one of the examples, again, in our blog post, is to create a really cool contemporary look with color. One way to really imagine this is if you can imagine a kitchen that has a very vibrant backsplash and it's just in a really cool color. Then you keep your accents and accessories and artworks in that same color range. It doesn't have to be that same identical color, but you don't want to stray too far from it. You might go a shade darker or a shade lighter, or keep it all the same. So it is a way of decorating that helps to make your space very bright and cheerful. It will give it a real contemporary edge if you keep your countertops clean, maintain that modernism throughout there, that minimalism. Don't have a lot of stuff. For example, if you can visualize this, you've got white cabinets and you've got a light wood floor. Then you have a backsplash that is done kind of in a lemony yellow. And then all of your light fixtures are in yellow. Even your toe kick space underneath your cabinetry is painted in yellow. Then if you've got a couple plants or something, they're in yellow pots. So it might sound kind of odd, but when you see a picture of it, it actually kind of works. And if yellow isn't your color, do it with another color, maybe like a cool lighter green or a lighter blue, and you'll have a really nice tropical influence. It's like a contemporary space that's infused with tropical color. It really works. So, yeah, consider that the contemporary colorful oasis. One tip that we would just have to mention about this, though, is if you're considering going that route, just make sure it's in a color that you really love and that the slightly darker or slightly lighter shades of it are also colors that you love, because you can potentially end up with a lot of it depending on the size of the kitchen. So, if you're looking for just a little bit of color, this is not an example that we would recommend for you. But if you like a lot of color and preferably the same, this could be where you hit the mark. Just make sure you like it because, as I said, you can end up with a lot of it. And your end result really needs to make sense. It just needs to be pleasing to the eye. So, moving on to our last example here is indoor nature. And what we mean by this is literally bringing nature indoors. This works very, very well in larger open concept kitchens. But if you think about it, why not embrace the beauty of nature right in your own kitchen by bringing in as many decor elements as you can that remind you of tropical landscaping or a lush rainforest? So, when you have a large open space, maybe with a breakfast area connected or even a living room connected to it, this is where you can have lots of plants in different sizes, again, either both real or not real, and you've got them off at a distance. Then they're placed in a way where progressively they're getting closer to the kitchen. And then you've got a couple plants in the kitchen, maybe a really nice one on the countertop. You can even add a few hanging ones if you've got a sturdy hook, which is mounted to a stud behind the drywall. And just remember, hanging plants are very heavy, especially after watering. So make sure any hanging you do is not done just in drywall. It's got to be mounted to a stud behind it. But if you can imagine, now you've got all this plant life going on. Then, if you can just imagine your walls and you've got a really cool jungle leaf print going on there, not too heavy because you don't want it to overpower the plants that we've just described, but you've got some palm prints, you've got some kind of leaf prints going on the wall. Now you're bringing that plant life up onto the walls as well. So it's kind of really scattered throughout. It really, really creates a cool look. This works really well with lighter flooring. Your plants will pop more, you'll see them better. It works when you've got a lot of natural light. And this kind of look is actually easier again for most people because now you're talking about a bigger space where chances are you're going to have at least one or more windows that you can work with. And you're just bringing in those natural materials, those patterns, those textures. Then for artwork, consider things like woven plates or baskets, which are hanging on the wall. You've got those woven pendants again that we've talked about, maybe hanging over a breakfast table. But then to kind of mix things up, you've got some really cool glass, maybe pineapple shaped pendants hanging over your kitchen island or the countertops. You've got track lighting mounted in primary ceiling spaces, like just kind of as your general lighting, your ambient lighting up against the ceiling, and maybe even having a bit of recessed lighting interspersed throughout. So now you've got a bunch of different lighting forms. What we really recommending is having all of these on separate switches if possible, because then you can turn on one or more of them at a time in different combinations. You don't have to have everything on a single switch. So when you flip that switch, everything lights up like Times Square. You don't want that. But obviously, you can turn everything on if you're entertaining, you're having a party. But when you want just to create different moods, you want only that track lighting on, or maybe only the pendants over the counter, or maybe over the island. You can really do a lot. And when you have the plants in there too, then the plants are there kind of lit off. They're kind of off in the shadows. It just has a bit of that little tropical landscaping or rainforesty look that you would find outdoors. So, yeah, consider the nature look, bringing it all indoors when possible. So, those are the 8 ideas that we have for you. And I would say just, at the end of the day, there's so many options out there. But as we mentioned at the top of the show, it's the kitchen. Be very careful because, again, it is a room everybody's going to see at one point. It is the room that has the most permanence, meaning you can't just move stuff around that easily, like in a bedroom or in a living room where you can just redo the furniture or just throw it all out and start over. In a kitchen, most everything is fixed for permanence. So when you are doing a full kitchen remodel, be very, very sure that this is what you want. It is very common afterwards to say, oh, we should have done this or I should have done that. That's very normal and it happens to most people. But again, you want that kept to a minimum. So whether you want to add just a few decor pieces, maybe you've already got something that really works and it's very cool and it'll remind you of your island paradise. Or if you are planning on doing a full remodel, we hope we've inspired you with the ideas that we've shared today. That's one of the things that we just love to do is share the ideas we come across with everybody else, provide some really valuable information to you that you wouldn't find anywhere else in one kind of easy, cohesive space like we provide on the show. We're here to just help keep things simple and easy. You can do the same thing while transforming your kitchen into a tropical retreat. Just again, focus on the natural materials, use neutral base colors as your primary foundation, such as in your countertops. And then from there, just go. Cabinets can be kept neutral in wood or they can be painted in an awesome tropical color, dark blues or dark greens. Bring in the plants, bring in the decor. If you are replacing your accessories like your toaster and your juicer and your stand mixer, this is where you can get them in really cool accent colors, create that backsplash, do something really cool with it that nobody else has. But most importantly, keep the atmosphere serene and peaceful. It should be a place that is visually relaxing. It will give the wow factor when you throw a party, and it will just keep you at peace when you're in there by yourself. If you follow the tips that we've given you in this episode, you can create a bit of paradise in your kitchen space. It can be a refuge for you. It can be that place where you fix that cup of coffee or that cup of tea or your favorite beverage, and it just refreshes the mind, refreshes your soul. It can be a place that reminds you of ocean breezes and just the beautiful charm of the tropics. So with that, we're going to say thank you for visiting with us. Please visit with us over at ceruleanbay.com. That's where you're going to find a lot of cool blog posts about everything indoors and outdoors for creating your tropical escape at home. You can check out our new YouTube channel. We have a channel on there, Tropical Escapes at Home as well. We'd love for you to check it out and subscribe. We're just building the content out there, so be patient with us, but we're getting there. Doing video is not an easy thing for me, but I am becoming more comfortable with it. And being on camera, it's just not for the faint of heart. But anyways, I think I'm getting better at it. So having you all watch really does mean a lot. Our content is growing and we just want to turn it into another source where you can come and get some great inspiration and all of the tips that you need. Until we meet again next week, just look for that tropical inspiration everywhere you can. If you need to, write it down, make a note so you don't forget anything cool. Have an awesome week, everyone, and take care. Bye-bye.